This woman is Sarah Champion. She is an elected Labour Party politician for Rotherham. She and I would probably disagree on many things. However, I do have an amount of respect for this woman, and today I need to do something that the left-wing media of this nation, who should be fighting her corner, have categorically failed to do, and that is defend her. Because Sarah Champion is simply the latest example of someone being punished for telling the truth. Her career has been sabotaged, her character has been slandered, and now, for telling the truth, her life is in danger. Like I said, Sarah Champion is an elected Labour Party politician. The same Labour Party that can't go 5 seconds without spouting the typical left-wing verbal diarrhea we've all become numb to. You know the stuff: for the many, not the few, equality for all, gay rights, minority rights, trans rights, women's rights. Oh yes, women's rights. That elusive thing. The cause that drives so many pussy hat wearing feminists onto the streets in massive demonstrations. The cause that motivates grown women to dress up as vaginas. Really powerful stuff. Yes, fighting for women's rights is easy when your biggest enemy is Donald Trump or wolf-whistling builders. But when you actually have to stand up to a real problem, a real threat to women and girls in Britain, for example, Pakistani rape gangs, these thousands of angry protesters and equality warriors are conspicuous by their absence. You'd think that the mass rape and sexual abuse of girls over the course of decades, along with police cover-ups, would be a worthy issue to fight against. But Donald Trump once called Rosie O'Donnell a pig, so you know, priorities. Sarah Champion, while being a member of the loathsome political party that promotes this blind spot, has gone against the script and has stepped out into the open plain to speak some home truths and cut through the PC bullshit to highlight this very problem, painting a big red target on her back as a result. On August 10th, 2017, she wrote an article in The Sun titled, "British Pakistani men are raping and exploiting white girls, and it's time we faced up to it." Already, just from the headline alone, you can imagine the sorts of people who would be simply horrified to read it. I mean, she outright identifies Pakistani men as the perpetrators and white girls as the victims. This is a big no-no, Sarah. How dare you insinuate that members of an ethnic minority could be racially oppressing white people? Don't you know that's impossible? She continued, "There, I said it. Does that make me a racist, or am I just prepared to call out this horrifying problem for what it is?" Well, Sarah, indeed you are a racist, or you may as well be, as local charity Just Yorkshire implied in their official outrage statement after your article was published, writing that your comments were irresponsible, incited hatred against minorities, and provided fuel to the far right. How could you, Sarah? Just stay quiet about it all. Don't you remember your training, girl? Sarah continued in her article, "For too long we have ignored the race of these abusers and worse, tried to cover it up. No more. These people are predators and the common denominator is their ethnic heritage. We have to have grown-up conversations, however unpalatable, or in 6 months' time we will be having this same scenario all over again." Well, you were so wrong about that, weren't you, Sarah? So incredibly inaccurate. Fake news, some would say. Appalling. It wasn't 6 months later, it was 7. Because the Telford child rape scandal wasn't revealed until March. Seriously, stop making such incendiary remarks. 6 months. Pfft. In the days following the article, Sarah's fellow politicians were furious. Namely fellow Labour MP Naz Shah, who said that Champion was again being irresponsible and setting Pakistani boys up to fail with her blanket racialized loaded statements. This is the same Naz Shah, by the way, who retweeted a satirical tweet thinking it was serious that said the victims of grooming gangs should shut up for the sake of diversity. So clearly she's best placed to determine what's responsible and what isn't. A few days later, after mounting pressure from various people and organisations, Champion was forced to resign from her position as Shadow's Equalities Minister. This was supported by all the usual types, including Stand Up to Racism, who released a statement of approval that Jeremy Corbyn had accepted Sarah's resignation and again called her comments reprehensible, irresponsible and shocking, while also choosing to bring up the Finsbury Mosque attack, linking it to her article. But I suppose their argument is the truth should be suppressed and hidden because some people might get upset. Typical cowardice from these fruitcakes. Nothing to see here. And of course, Jeremy Corbyn was more than happy to see Champion leave her position because he can't have one of his own daring to criticise individuals from his main voter base now, can he? I guess we'll just not bring up the uncomfortable truth that thousands of innocent girls are being sexually exploited by Pakistani men from now on. Keep it quiet. Under the rug. Hush hush, guys. We need your votes. To Sarah's credit, she later came out and said that the floppy left fear being called racist and that's why they remain eerily silent on these types of things. But we've all known that for years. The damage was done, however, and Champion and her concerns were quickly forgotten about. So why am I bringing all this up again? It happened last year and things have moved on. Well, I was at the petrol station yesterday and I saw something that caught my eye as I walked past the newspaper stand. An article in the Times which read, "Terror police boost MP's security over criticism of Asian sex gangs." I was, naturally, intrigued. I bought the paper and began reading. Sarah seems to be in a bit of trouble, ladies and gentlemen. An MP who received death threats after condemning the sexual abuse of girls by groups of British Pakistani men has been given increased security amid fears that the hard left and Muslim opponents are trying to force her from office. Hard left and Muslim opponents, eh? Well, say it ain't so. The unholy alliance itself. The hard left, who want absolute equality for all, but not for the white girls who have been raped for decades by brown people. That's just racist to point out. But yes, this ordeal is still very much ongoing, and the fact that counter-terrorism police have had to boost her security really says it all. Much of this seems to be stemming from a recent charity report. As Sky News said, Sarah Champion is said to have received death threats after a charity released a report that was heavily critical of her. Which charity is this, I bet you're wondering? Well, it's our old friends at Just Yorkshire. They have been adamant that Champion has inflamed racial tensions in Rotherham by her language, which is a convenient way to deflect from the real reason for them, but this tactic becomes ever more clearer when you see who runs Just Yorkshire on a day-to-day basis. Let's have a look. An interesting, diverse bunch of people, I'm sure you'd agree. I can't see why these people would have a vested interest in going after Sarah Champion at all. Baffling. The charity report in question was co-authored by this bloke, and it said some interesting things like British Pakistanis felt scapegoated, dehumanised and potentially criminalised by their MP, Sarah Champion, who had crossed the point of no return. Its forward accused her of fanning the flames of racial hatred and acting like a neo-fascist murderer. Did you hear that, Sarah? You're acting like a neo-fascist murderer. That's not gross hyperbole at all, is it? Neo-fascist murderer. The charity's leader has accused the MP of industrial-scale racism and inciting and inviting hatred against minorities. That's really funny because industrial-scale is a term that's been used to describe the rape of thousands of young white girls. But we can just reuse phraseology to suit our own needs in the end, can't we? And another Just Yorkshire superstar, this guy, who is apparently a leading academic, I doubt it very much, has accused Miss Champion of promoting racism. He also congratulated the new Duchess of Sussex on joining the institution that epitomises white supremacy, the royal family. He also mocked the England football team during the World Cup, describing its Three Lions emblem as a colonial legacy that would be more appropriately be of three hedgehogs. Yeah, so this guy clearly has an anti-British agenda like many others in his type of nonsense work. What a surprise, eh? This is clearly an attempt to rattle Sarah Champion and to get her to flee and resign her constituency seat. Reports have suggested that a leading figure of the local hard-left Momentum group, which are another bunch of womb ferrets that I'll get onto in another video, Taiba Yassin, is being lined up to replace Miss Champion if she quits. She is seeking a Westminster seat and has publicly condemned Miss Champion for betraying an entire ethnic group. An entire ethnic group? What about the thousands of young white girls that were betrayed by your council, Miss Yassin? Do they not count? I guess not. Miss Yassin, 43, was dropped from the Rotherham cabinet in May for reasons the party has declined to reveal. But supporters of Miss Champion say that the decision was prompted by concerns that she was trying to discredit the MP. Well, that's really interesting. It's not often that people are dropped from cabinets for no reason, is it? She sounds like a lovely human being. Not a scheming bone in her entire body whatsoever. But this would add up with this piece of information. Allies of Miss Champion have claimed they are trying to ruin her reputation in a bid to force her out of Parliament and replace her with a Muslim member of the local council. A gradual takeover of every institution in Rotherham, it looks like. In correspondence seen by The Times, the ex-deputy leader of Rotherham Council described her as an ogre. Jahinga Akhtar, and I don't care if that's horribly wrong, warned if Labour wants to keep her seat, they need to get rid of her pretty quick. That's rich coming from Mr. Akhtar, considering he had to step down from the council himself over claims that he knew about certain child sex abuses. And it was even heavily implied in a court of law that he himself got in on some of the action. As a sex victim told police, she was raped by Mr. Akhtar, now councillor, when she was working in a taxi firm some time ago. All of this feeds into what we know about Rotherham and the disgraceful series of events that occurred there and that are still occurring. Councillors knew, police knew, politicians knew, yet they did nothing. They covered it all up, and when you see the sorts of people with influence in that part of the country, it's not hard to see how they could easily get this done. We know through research from Quilliam that the vast majority of men involved in grooming gang cases are from Islamic backgrounds, mostly Pakistani Muslims, or Asian men if you prefer the politically correct term. You only need to look at the pictures of the criminals to see a very evident trend. Yet, we aren't allowed to say it, we aren't allowed to talk about it, and when someone eventually does come out and highlight it, like Sarah Champion, she is relentlessly attacked, smeared, and now threatened, both in terms of her physical safety and in regards to her career. There is a move from certain demographics, shall I say, with a certain ideological leaning to take over our institutions, especially on a local governmental level, to start charities, to garner extremely influential public power in order to push their own agenda. This is obvious. They band together, they deny the horrific crimes of Rotherham, of Rochdale, Newcastle, Telford, and a host of other towns and cities where this same pattern of criminality persists, and nothing is done to stop it. If you step out of line and point it out, you are public enemy number one. And this is all happening within the Labour Party, within the hard left organisations like Momentum that are trying their damnedest to stick their claws into every area of society they can. This is modern Britain. This is the result of decades of policies promoting multiculturalism, tolerance and diversity from our treacherous political class, and this is something we need to fight tooth and nail. Sarah Champion herself is part of a political party that pushes these dangers on us consistently, and when she deviated from the official script just a little bit, this is how she is treated. She is, in part, responsible for this too, by the way. She has backed these sort of things to the hilt, but at least she recognises the truth on this issue and had the balls to say so. I suggest you all give her messages of support where you can, on Twitter, through email, but don't let her forget that this is partly her fault too. And that if she really wants to fight child sexploitation, perhaps the Labour Party isn't the best vessel to do it from. How long will this go on for? What will it take for us to wipe this all clean? To drain the swamp, for lack of a better term? I think the day is fast approaching. Thank you all very much for watching once again. I'm sorry this is the only video I've made this week so far. I've got no excuses, I've just been busy, that's all. But I've got a few exciting announcements to make to you next week, so stay subscribed. If you'd like to support this channel, you can do so in a few ways. The first way is via PayPal. The link is down below. I say it every time, but thank you so much to everyone who's been so generous to throw me a few quid here and there. It really helps me out. I can't even explain how much. Failing that, you can become a patron of mine. $5 a month or more will get your name at the end of every single one of my videos as a credit, like these gorgeous, beautiful, angelic people here. Saints, they are. Heroes. Thank you so much, guys. You know how much I appreciate you. Alright, that's it from me. Have a good one. Cheerio.